The top of this piece had severe damage. After painting the body gray, I covered the top in concrete. The afters look great and you can see them in different lighting. Let's go back in time to the before and I'll show you how I did this. I bought this gray piece here for $1 a while back because of the water damage that was on the top here. The rest of it looks pretty good. I do want to do some distressing on the sides, but the water damage I'm going to cover using Henry Feather Finish. It says cement. It's not concrete because it doesn't have an aggregate in it, but I will accidentally repeatedly call it concrete, I'm sure. Cups for measuring and mixing, a putty knife that I'll spread it on with. I want to wear gloves. You don't want it on your hands and skin. Protection for when I'm mixing it, the water with which to mix it. A mixer, and this is the Henry Feather Finish. I'll have about 15 minutes after mixing to spread it on and try to get it somewhat level. I have a bucket of water here and a sponge. I may go in and once it dries some, use that sponge to do something similar to a wet sand. And begin. Before I move ahead, I want to make sure that I show this on video. One of the attempts I'd made to fix the water damage is to cover it in contact paper before painting it. After that failed, I put it away and put my thinking cap on. Moved on to other things. Hopefully the feather finish will be able to resolve this issue. Removing the contact paper that I had painted gives you a good idea of why this was $1 and a better idea of what I'm working with on trying to fix. I mixed 1/4 cup. I mixed half a cup of water with 1 cup of Henry Feather Finish. I put the water into this cup and then I put the skim coat material into that as it instructs. It mixes on its own fairly well. A lot of people don't use a blender of any kind after. It's not the Henry's way, but what I'm doing is not the Henry's way. It's like icing a cake. One of the concerns about this is that while it's strong, concrete cement is brittle. So the chance that it'll crack is the chance that I'm taking here. One way to help offset that issue is by an additive that you can find commonly used in a mortar mix. Because when you tile, tiles move more than concrete normally does, so that's probably where you're going to find the additive if you're searching. I bought one that will arrive soon on the advice of my father, who was a tile manufacturer, after Googling it for so much longer than made any sense, not to just call him and ask what to do about the concern that this may crack. I did another table, beating it up with a mallet, dropping it repeatedly as hard as I could, kicking it, rolling it around. I didn't get any cracks, but that doesn't mean that that's not going to happen. The piece is pretty new, so as it dries more, the little stresses might cause cracks. It's a concern I want to address rather than ignore. And if it has to crack, I was thinking I could paint inside the cracks and then put epoxy or clear silicone in those cracks to make it a feature rather than a flaw. For the edges going around it, I think it's easier to use my hands, so I'm going to kind of wait a little bit so that I'm not then handling the putty knife covered in cement. The first coat is going to be imperfect. As I said, I have about 15 minutes during which time before it dries enough that it becomes too hard to work with, and I'll either need to add a little water to my hands or a sponge and knock off the hard variations, or wait and sand it, which is likely what the manufacturer would recommend. They do not want you to add more water to this. And their reasoning for it is sound, considering what the product's typically for. It reduces the structural integrity of the product if you add more water than they recommend. I have no real need for this to have a great deal of structural integrity, though. It's not a bridge. This underlayment is good on lots of different types of floor. You can even out plywood subflooring with it before tiling. And that's its, I believe, its most common use. It is called skim coat and underlayment because you flatten the floor by skimming it with this product, and then you put your regular flooring over that. The fact that this is not the intended original use of the product does not mean that it's not a good one. A number of people have used this to cover cover countertops. Those are more stationary than any other piece of furniture would be, so the success of that, while it gives me some hope, because I don't see many issues people have with cracking, the success of that gives me hope, but also the application is not exactly the same as this. Certainly closer to what I'm doing than laying a floor. In both countertops and floors, the sense of urgency you need to have when using this is pretty high compared to a smaller piece of furniture. 15 minutes is not a particularly long time in which to work, but it's a 7-pound bag. It covers, I think, up to 200 square feet. And most people are mixing it all at once, to give you an idea of how much time I have compared to the people that are using this for its stated purpose. Maybe the company just thought it knew what it was for. Concrete has advanced a lot, and I think there's a good possibility we can use it in furniture more than we used to be able to. I know there's a good possibility we use it more than we used to be able to. I think more than people realize. Go ahead and do a skim coat on the back of this, where the concrete meets the paint. Back looks good enough. It's not the most important part. I can go back after this and do it again, since I'll be doing, this isn't going to be my only coat. Now I'm getting to the point where it's drying enough that it's starting to stick to itself, which means I'm not going to be able to spread it for much longer before I'm removing the product that I'm trying to spread on. Now I'm going to use my hand. I found after I no longer can use the spreader thingy. I hate when I forget words that I know really well on camera. Or I don't. I think it's funny. Putty knife. Trowel is the appropriate tool to have used. Of course, I'm using the wrong tool on the wrong application in the wrong way. But my other use of it has so far been successful. It's been surprisingly successful so far. Makes me really glad. I like working with furniture, and flipping furniture is a real goal of mine, but the cost to do it is kind of excessive. So I was thinking about different materials available. Wood is incredibly expensive, so that's been a major concern. I just started looking around to see like what materials exist in the world that are in abundance. Dirt. Can't make furniture out of dirt. I'm dipping my hands in water now to help smooth this out, which is not what the product manufacturer recommends. They specifically recommend against doing this because of the structural integrity, as I said. Also, I don't need the structural integrity to be anything near what it otherwise would be. Oh, so dirt, can't make furniture out of dirt, or I could. I'm not going to try that. And then, what else is there a lot of? Asphalt. Can't really make furniture out of asphalt. And then the other thing that I thought of that there's a great deal of is concrete. I think it's a way I can make beautiful things that I can afford to make, and that I can make enough of a profit on that I can continue making more. I can feel I'm at the area where there was so much damage. This one coat is not going to be enough as stated. I kind of had expected it to do a little better job of covering that area so far. It's totally fine that it's not. I don't have to do this part. If you try to do this, you don't have to do this part. It's going to reduce how much sanding I need to do. I found after this, if I let it dry for a little while, then I can come back with a damp sponge and knock back the uneven areas even further. When I first did it, I didn't sand at all, which was nice. Not anti-sanding, but it's not my favorite. I think the extent to which I was going to be able to smooth it by hand is the extent to which I have. And I think I should stop messing with it right here. It's pulling up parts of the particle board. So I should leave it alone. There it is. First coat done. Running my fingers along the bottom to kick off any major concrete sickles, cement sickles. After it dries, I can do it again. I'm gonna talk through most of this part. I think I'm gonna do a double speed or whatever. I'll be sanding the concrete. This is the day after the second coat. And actually, I'm going to take some pictures because I want you to see what... I took some pictures with the sanding block in all of them for scale. There's pitting. This is 100 grit. My intention is to sand it down some and then do another coat that is quite thin to try to backfill some of these little holes. The concrete I have mixed this time is half feather finish and half water, rather than 1 part water and 2 parts feather finish. It's very, very thin. It's bubbly. I wonder if I should vibrate it like you would in other concrete. I did not mix this with the blender. It's the first time. That I only hand mixed. about an hour later. It's dry and I can sand it. I'm going to go back again with the same grit I had before. 100. Take a couple pictures so you can see it up close, and then I'll be back to show you what the sanding looks like. I've now sanded it down with 100 grit. I put my mask on, as I should have before, and also vacuumed as I sanded to prevent it getting kicked up, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to go up to 220 and take a few pictures of what it looks like at 100 here for you. I've done half the table in 220 by hand. It's this half. This half is still at 100. Let's see. So from here back, that's 100 grit sanded. The remainder is 220. It's pretty smooth, feels good. I don't know how well it plays on camera. Fine, I guess. It took me about 5 minutes. I'm going to spend about 5 minutes on the other side now too. To finish it, rather than use one of the polyurethanes that I've been using on other furniture, I'm going to use this, which didn't work well before, but I don't know that it was the product's fault. Anyway, it's inexpensive, it's available nearby, and this piece, though it's cute, is just not that valuable, so it's okay if I fail here. I'm going to ventilate the area very well before I get to this. Put 2 coats of this matte finish on the top. On the back, though, I did not put 2 coats on the left side. There's nothing on this side. I put 2 coats on the right side. That's to give me an idea of whether what I did is enough or not. Alright, so this is water. A spray bottle of water. That is unfinished, or there's no top coat. Concrete's really porous. And then this is finished. Absorbed, repelled. Oh yeah. Alright, we're good. I went ahead and took it outside and put another 2 coats on it that's drying now because I want to make sure that it's protected even though it's an inexpensive piece. It's important to me that it be good.